Welcome to Blogging for Teachers Part 4, How to Write a Great Blog Post. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 tips that you can use to craft a post that people are going to want to read and that they are going to remember. All right, so there's obviously a lot of components that make up a great post, and there's also lots of nuances that make up a great post. But I've identified 3 here today that I think are super critical and will get you launched and started really fast. And these are having a purpose for your post, keeping your audience in mind, and writing an interesting title. And I'm going to be talking to you about each of these in a little more depth. All right, so having a purpose, this is very critical. When you sit down to write your post, you already want to have in mind, what is the main message, okay? So what do you want your readers to take away from having read your post? And I recommend keeping a journal where you can document different ideas that you have for posts, and then when you sit down to write, you can reference that to see what it is that you might feel like writing about that day. So before you start writing, my advice is make sure you know what it is that you want to write about. As you write, understand that you might have lots and lots of things to say, but you can't say everything. So you're going to have to leave some things out. And some of those things are probably going to be really interesting nuggets, but you can take those really interesting nuggets that you just didn't have space for, and you can turn them into different blog posts. So keep that in mind as well. In the end, you really want a post that has a very clear, focused vision. You don't just want a list of random interesting things in the post. You want it to all come together. All right, next up, remember your audience. So when you're writing your blog, always have in mind, who is your primary audience? There could be lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds that read your blog, but know who your primary audience is, right? Who are you really writing for? So for example, I have a yoga blog, and I assume that my primary audience are going to be people that have a yoga practice, right? Some people that might be just curious, might be reading it for different purposes, because sometimes I blog about nutrition, right? They might kind of wander in, but they're not my primary audience. My primary audience are people who practice yoga. So when I write a post for my primary audience, I'm writing my post from, when I'm writing a post, I'm thinking about my primary audience, and I'm writing from their perspective. I want to see things as much as possible through their eyes, and I want to write it in such a way that they're going to be able to understand what I'm saying. So I'm always thinking about my primary audience when I'm writing. It will be super helpful to you to read the blogs of others who write for your audience. So using the yoga blog as an example, I read other yoga blogs, right? I find ones that I like, and I obviously use them to learn more information for myself personally, for personal growth, but I also look at them as models. Okay, what are some things that they write about, how they structure their posts that I can learn from and that I can pull into my own blogging and my own posts as well. And then finally, and I actually think this is the most difficult of the 3, is crafting an interesting title. Now, sometimes it's just not possible, I think, to come up with an interesting title. Some of your titles are going to be more catchy and interesting than others. I think that's just kind of how it works. But at the very least, try to write a title that captures the overall point of your post. So you really want, when readers see your title, they know what to expect. And so if they were looking at 10 titles and they only had 5 minutes, they would be able to hone in on which posts are likely to be the ones that are most interesting, most relevant to them, that they want to get to right away. So I write my titles at the end for the most part. Sometimes I have a title right at the beginning that I know is going to work. But for the most part, I start with my points, right? The main point that I want my post to be about. I write the article or write the blog post, and then I think about what is the title that is going to capture what I've written here the best. Then I go back and do my title at the end. So that's the other thing to think about, is that there's no set order for how you do this. You can write the title and then write your post. You can also write your post and then write your title. So those are 3 components that I think will help you craft really great blog posts. I hope you find them useful, and I hope they help get you started.